Hello, everyone. From around the world, it is a pleasure and honor to welcome you to this closing ceremony of the second edition of the RC3 Long Night of Research. This session is being interpreted simultaneously in French, Spanish, and Arabic. To turn on interpretation, simply click on the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen and select the language in which you want to listen to the meeting. We invite you to use the AI-generated captions and translation feature during the session. A summary of this information is going to be posted in the chat. So now we can start. Over the past 24 hours, we've traveled together across continents, time zones, and teams, hearing from researchers, practitioners, volunteers, and community members from across the movement. We've reflected, questioned, shared, and imagined. And in doing so, we've demonstrated just how alive and essential research is to the future of the humanitarian action. Before we go any further, I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you, our speakers, moderators, note takers, tech teams, interpreters, organizers, and participants. Your presence and your energy have made this event so much more than just a virtual gathering. You've helped turn it into a global conversation on the role of evidence, knowledge, and reflection in our work. And if there is one thing we can all agree on at this point, it is this: research is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is a strategic function that helps us stay accountable to the people we serve, informed in the decisions we make, and courageous in how we imagine and act on change. And it's becoming even more critical as the humanitarian landscape evolves, facing intersections, crises in climate, health, migration, and inequality. This closing session is titled A Leap into the Future, because that's exactly what we hope to inspire. This isn't just a conclusion, it is the starting point for renewed collaboration, deeper partnerships, and bold investments in research across our movement. So in the next hour, we will be joined by 5 fantastic speakers, representatives of the IFRC, national societies, and the RC3 network, who will share their reflections on the future of research in the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. Together, we will explore what kinds of research models are already active within our movement, what can we learn from them, how we can strengthen partnerships with the academic sector, both globally and locally, and how we can deepen research capacities, particularly in national societies and at the community level, where knowledge is most urgently needed. Our goal is to celebrate the incredible momentum generated by this event, while also laying out a clear, shared ambition to ensure that research continues to grow as a core pillar of humanitarian excellence. Before we dive into the session, let me just quickly go over a couple of practical points. So please note that the session is being recorded. We kindly ask you not to take pictures of the screen or of other participants without permission. And if you have any questions or want to react, you can use the chat type to type your questions during or after the interventions. For any technical issues, just post your question in the chat and one of our administrators will assist you. To start us off, I'm very pleased to pass the floor to Virginie Trois, Director of the French Red Cross Foundation and the representative of the RC3 Steering Committee. Virginie will offer us a short recap of the key highlights from the past 24 hours and help us ground this closing in the energy, insights, and shared purpose that emerge throughout this journey. Over to you, Virginie.
Thank you, Susanna, for that warm introduction. It is an honor to co-moderate this closing session with you. Dear President, dear Christopher Rassi, Dear colleagues, and hello again to everyone joining us from across the globe. Still the night here, but this is exactly what the concept is about. And I will take the opportunity to remind that this event is 100% result of volunteer work of members from the Red Cross and Red Crescent Research Consortium, passionate about sharing their work and willing to support national societies and volunteers on their path to a better integration of data, science, and evidence in their humanitarian work. We are now 23 Red Cross Red Crescent entities within the consortium, including the IFRC teams and the Center for Operational Research of the ICRC. Thanks to all members, very proud to be part of this adventure. And a huge thank to our operational team that was behind the stage all the time. So Andrea, Camille, Caroline, Anae, Ilya, Margarita, Esra, and Masuma. Thanks, and a special thanks to Louise, who made wonders to make our long night a reality. And again, thanks to all national societies supported these efforts. The Korean Red Cross, the American Red Cross, the Turkish Red Crescent, the Norwegian and the French Red Cross. And as we reach the end of this 24 hours journey, I just would like to take a few minutes to reflect on what we've shared and what lies ahead. And not only for our research community, but also for all colleagues and beyond. For the second edition, indeed, we have collectively decided to open the door of the event to our national society communities and to the external public, because we realize that through the power of volunteering and our academic partnerships, we are already working in a very dynamic and open environment. And that the long night of research is about putting people, ideas, and institutions together. Some volunteers are university professors, some movement staff are at the same moment finishing their master or PhD on essential analysis. And some colleagues who are responding right now to an emergency have key ideas to drive future research and innovation. And the Youth Commission made it very clear yesterday. Young people help ask difficult questions and are already leading research. So the long night of research is not seen as an event, as you said, Susanna. It's more like pushing on a pause button to say, look, we have huge challenges and they are very clear in the IFRC and ICRC strategies. And what we observe in our societies and our world, polarization, rise of violence, misinformation, erosion of humanitarian norms, and more important funding gaps is going to make them harder to face. But actually at field and institutional level, looking at humanitarian practices and policies, we actually do have a tradition of research and learning. It is not perfect, it is not enough, and it creates fear sometimes, but it is happening right now, vibrant, participative, creative, and it can help us to be more informed, more efficient, and more ethical. And many colleagues, even from inside the movement, are not aware of it. It's also complex work, and no one should be left alone on this difficult journey. Last night, I popped out some session from Hong Kong, Australia, Japan, and I was surprised. Participants kept their promises. They came and stayed till the end, and the conversation was very interactive. The first edition of the Long Night of Research was held 2 years ago on a single vital question. How can research make a difference in volunteering? And it was a bet. We had almost no resource, but many findings and questions to share. And what impressed us is that actually it was not complicated to host 23 sessions because we realized we have data, we have analysis, expert people on the front line, academic partners already, and 60 reports on the subject. And we were also impressed that 500 participants showed up from 60 countries, and half of the participants were actually volunteers. So we realized that there was a real hunger for a research that is practical, grounded, and transformative. And in the closing ceremony last time, when the speaker suggested that we need to have a second long nights, actually this meant we need and we want to have this conversation all together. And a conversation is not every 2 years, so we have created with our colleagues in Geneva the research community of practice which gather more than already 200 colleagues that are already exchanging on a daily basis. And that brings us today to the second edition of the Long Night of Research. And two things have changed in 25. First, we decided to be more open on the format, on the audience, but also with a broader multi-thematic focus. So our session, as reminded Susanna, have spanned a diverse array of themes, including our research-informed disaster preparedness and response strategy, on health and well-being, discussion centered on the intersection of health and humanitarian efforts, particularly in the context of climate change. We explore the complexity of migration and how research can support displaced population. On armed conflicts, violence, and IHL, we reflected on the role of research in understanding and addressing the consequences of armed conflicts. And also about research method. This last one is important because we receive a lot of questions about the making of the research. And this is not only about the results. So, and result is biomedical and epidemiology. This is history and archive. This is socioanthropology and interviews, law, economy and statistics, environmental science and big data. So it's very diverse and large. And what's a change also is a growing interest. Maybe as a result, we more than double the registration of the long night. So it was around 1,300, and more than half of the people showed up, with 60% coming from the movement, totaling 92 national societies. But also we had 70% people registering from other NGOs and research groups, and 10% from the academia. And in that 10%, it's more than 40 universities that were represented. So thank you for coming, dear colleagues, and for building those bridges that we need more and more. And yes, we can confirm we are a volunteer-based movement, and because half of the movement registration are coming from volunteers. So we have witnessed the capacity of research to unite us across geographies, disciplines, generation and experience. It's also fragile and difficult. The baseline of RC3 is science connected for humanity. We will celebrate the 60 years of our principle this year, and we are determined to contribute as we can to make them stronger with knowledge and science. RC3 supports its members to connect, to collaborate, amplify their work. It can be through joint collective research project, it's an annual workshop. We have also created a global research mapping platform, an event like this one. And what we aim to help with is to make research more visible, more accessible, and more impactful, more yours and ours, and placing dignity of people we serve at the center. And as the Korean Red Cross Vice President said during the opening, research is not confined to one department or one center. It's part of our humanitarian history, and it is essential for our future. So thanks to all for your contribution, your commitment, and your curiosity. Yes, I think that the long night was important to connect. So even after the event, come and pick up when you need, contact colleagues and centers, introduce yourself. All session with associated publication will be available on the RC3 platform soon, and there's also a lot on the members' website themselves. And yes, the long night is also important to engage. There is no miracle solution. We all struggle, but we all move little lines, and we are a team. So RC3 tries its best to facilitate, to peer support, to provide content and advices. And with that, it's my pleasure to pass you back the floor, Susanna. Your microphone is off, I think.
Apologies. Thank you very much, Virginie, for this very inspiring but also realistic grounding reflection. We will now move into the heart of our closing ceremony, a panel of distinguished speakers who will help us look to the future of research in the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. To begin, I have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. Christopher Razi, Chief of Staff and Under Secretary General for People and Strategy at the IFRC. Also, colleagues, for you, IFRC is the world's largest humanitarian network that unites 191 Red Cross and Red Crescent societies and supports them through a global secretariat. It is present in virtually every community on Earth, reaching 160 million people every year through long-term services, development programs, and disaster response. In addition, IFRC works to improve global humanitarian standards and persuade leaders to act in the interest of vulnerable people. So, Chris, we're very honored to have you with us today. My question has three elements in it: the what, the why, and what next. What is the current environment necessitating more than ever a trusted, evidence-based humanitarian data? Why is research a strategic priority for the IFRC, its network, and the wider movement as a whole? And what key steps do you believe we must take collectively to not only stay on the course, but improve our humanitarian action? Chris, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Susanna, and thank you, Virginie. Before, distinguished panel members and dear presidents and distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends from around the globe, it's my real pleasure to be with you today at the closing of this extraordinary event, this extraordinary Red Cross Red Crescent Consortium's long night of research. And what we've seen over the past 24 hours is truly remarkable to see across time zones, disciplines coming together, shaping the future of humanitarian action. And the theme this year is perfectly encapsulates the spirit of what the RC3 is and the essence of humanitarianism and the essence of our shared mission. I know that over the past 24 hours, we've delved deeply into these pressing global challenges. I'll talk about a bit of them now, and I know my distinguished colleagues will as well, from environmental crises, from disasters to health and well-being, migration, identity issues to armed conflicts, IHL, volunteering, and robust research methodologies. And at the same time, we have to prepare for a future where AI becomes a major factor shaping humanitarian contexts. AI technologies through algorithmic bias, through misinformation, automated warfare, shifting labor markets are already reshaping the root causes and dynamics of vulnerability. And how we anticipate and understand these effects must become part of our humanitarian foresight and risk analysis. I know that over the course of the sessions, we've seen how research is not just informing, but truly transforming the way we work with communities. The achievements we have discussed, such as the creation of a vibrant network of Red Cross and Red Crescent affiliated research entities, the establishment of communities of practice for humanitarian research, and pioneering studies on critical topics like heat waves and volunteering, are powerful reminders of what we can accomplish when we collaborate and innovate together. Within the IFRC, we've increasingly prioritized rigorous research as a cornerstone of informed decision-making. By grounding our humanitarian responses in high-quality data and comprehensive contextual analysis, we are ensuring our interventions are not only responsive, but also sustainable and impactful. At the IFRC, we're also actively exploring how AI can enhance our ability to respond effectively. From improving early warning systems and disaster forecasting to enabling more targeted resource allocation and personalized services, AI is unlocking new opportunities to act faster, more precisely, and at scale. But at the same time, we have to be aware of unintended consequences. So that's also something we're working on closely. The IFRC, through initiatives such as our growing communities of practice, actively fosters collaboration and knowledge sharing across our global network. These communities bring together practitioners, researchers, and volunteers from every corner of our movement, creating spaces where innovative ideas and best practices flourish and translate directly into meaningful action. It is through these collaborative platforms that our research becomes accessible, relevant, and actionable for those on the front lines of humanitarian crises. Our end goal is clear. We aim to fully leverage the immense potential of our distributed network, deeply rooted in local knowledge, community trust, and the unparalleled commitment of millions of volunteers. And this uniquely positions our network to understand and effectively respond to the nuanced challenges faced by diverse communities worldwide. And by harnessing rigorous scientific research and the strength of our local presence, we can craft tailored interventions that deliver meaningful, lasting, and sustainable impact. I just want to highlight the importance also of engaging local decision makers and practitioners in our research agenda. I mean, the impact of our work depends on making research accessible and actionable for those on the ground. By aligning our research across with operational needs and communicating our findings all across the network, we ensure that evidence truly drives meaningful change. Looking ahead to the future, to 2026 and beyond, we envisage an IFRC where evidence-based approaches are deeply embedded in every aspect of our work, where research is not only valued, but viewed as indispensable. And as a secretariat, we will continue to support the RC3 in establishing a robust network of interconnected research hubs across all regions and amplify the thought leadership of our reference centers, so critical. We will encourage the use of AI to transform how we conduct humanitarian research, and when guided by ethical practices and principles and paired with local knowledge, AI can accelerate the research cycle and improve the accessibility and usability of research findings across our network. We'll also continue to develop our global communities of practice to ensure that our humanitarian responses are consistently informed by the latest scientific evidence and best practices. And these efforts will further enhance our reputation as a trusted humanitarian leader and actor, responding proactively, creatively, and effectively to the complex realities faced by communities worldwide. And I'd like to take a moment to recognize the exceptional efforts of the RC3 Steering Committee, the organizers of this extraordinary long night of research, and every participant who has contributed their expertise and passion to this event. Your dedication, insight, and tireless commitment to advancing our collective mission inspires us all. And I'd just like to leave you here today with a renewed dedication to continue connecting science to humanity, transforming knowledge into action, action into impact, and impact into sustained positive change for the communities that we work with every single day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. It is now my great pleasure to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Philippe Dacosta, President of the French Red Cross. The French Red Cross has long been a strong supporter of research within the movement, but it is also one of the few national societies hosting not just one, but 3 research-dedicated entities. These include the French Red Cross Foundation, which plays a key role in fostering academic and humanitarian dialogue, the IFRC Global First Aid Reference Center, which contributes to the development of evidence-based training and practices, and the Pirois Center in La Réunion, which works closely with universities to advance disaster risk reduction and climate resilience. This strong ecosystem reflects the French Red Cross's commitment to embedding research and knowledge generation at the heart of its humanitarian work, locally, nationally, and internationally. Monsieur le Président, nous vous serions reconnaissantes de bien vouloir partager avec nous vos réflexions sur cet événement de la longue nuit de la recherche la manière dont la Croix-Rouge française comprend et investit dans la recherche et, enfin, quel message vous aimeriez adresser aux autres sociétés nationales qui envisagent d'adopter ou d'approfondir leurs propres capacités et engagements à mettre de recherche. À vous, Monsieur le Président.
Le micro du président est fermé, non?
Monsieur le Président, est-ce que vous m'attendez? Vous m'entendez?
Oui, je crois que voilà, nous avons retrouvé le son. Écoutez, bien sûr, je voudrais d'abord remercier vous, Susanna, remercier Virginie, que j'ai le plaisir également de retrouver à distance ce matin. Et puis, évidemment, écouter avec beaucoup d'intérêt les propos de Christopher, avec qui nous étions pas plus tard qu'hier pour parler de notre belle fédération. Alors, je voudrais saluer tous les panélistes de ce matin, tous les élus, les présidents en particulier qui vont intervenir. Je voudrais aussi évidemment saluer ceux qui vont porter la parole du RC3 et vous remercier pour votre invitation et féliciter tout particulièrement l'ensemble des équipes du RC3 pour l'organisation de cette deuxième édition. Ça vient d'être rappelé par Christopher, le mouvement constitue une richesse inestimable et en fait, finalement, nous avons besoin de ces temps forts pour valoriser et tirer parti des savoir-faire, des connaissances, des cultures, bref, tout simplement, des vécus, des récits des uns et des autres. Alors, cette deuxième édition de la Nuit de la Recherche est peut-être la plus exigeante. Lors d'un lancement, il y a toujours de l'enthousiasme, de l'envie, et si j'ose dire, quelque part en recherche, les charmes de l'inconnu que nous connaissons bien en tant que chercheurs. Cette deuxième édition, c'est au fond l'idée d'amorcer l'installation d'un rendez-vous stable, régulier, et quelquefois peut-être avec le risque de perte d'envie, voire d'habitude. Et donc, notre présence ici, 24 heures après le début, est, je crois, la preuve et la participation de vous tous que l'initiative prend racine. Et c'est, je le crois, un rappel qu'il nous faut bâtir au sein du mouvement quelque chose de durable, c'est-à-dire d'utile. Or, si nous sommes tous réunis depuis hier et aujourd'hui tout particulièrement, c'est que nous sommes convaincus que le RC3 et les acteurs de la recherche du mouvement ont quelque chose à dire à la fois au mouvement, mais aussi au monde. De surcroît, dans un contexte que nous connaissons bien, contexte de défiance vis-à-vis des experts et des institutions, d'essor aussi de la désinformation et quelquefois aussi de remise en question tout simplement de la science humaine et sociale et du monde scientifique, cette longue nuit est une manière de fédérer notre communauté de chercheurs et au-delà de nos fuseaux horaires respectifs, de montrer l'importance que nous consacrons toutes et tous à cet enjeu. Car nous le voyons tout simplement au quotidien, la recherche humanitaire éclaire par son ancrage sur le terrain, par sa capacité à être en prise avec les vulnérabilités dans nos sociétés. Elle est donc en fait, nous en sommes convaincus à la Croix-Rouge française, en capacité d'analyser les grands bouleversements, les ruptures, les crises qui sont à l'œuvre, mais aussi à la fois de détecter les tendances lourdes et les signaux faibles. Pour la Croix-Rouge française, vous l'avez rappelé, et pour notre fondation, c'est un immense plaisir finalement de contribuer activement à cette dynamique au sein du mouvement, au sein du RC3 depuis 2019. aux côtés de nos partenaires, aux côtés de nos sociétés sœurs, nous portons tout simplement l'intime conviction depuis plus de 10 ans maintenant que la recherche se doit d'être pensée comme un atout stratégique pour nos organisations. D'abord en interne, afin de nous interroger, de nous questionner, de problématiser les questions que nous avons à affronter, de la nécessité aussi de faire évoluer nos pratiques, nos actions, et puis tout simplement d'innover, de déceler de nouvelles manières de faire et d'agir. À cet égard, d'ailleurs, la recherche se doit d'être pensée par et pour l'action. John Dewey le disait il y a déjà un siècle, il faut learning by doing, l'apprentissage par l'action est essentiel. Partir à chaque étape des besoins, faire avec les praticiens et derrière cette action, savoir rendre compte. Nous avons à cet égard une grande fierté au sein de notre société nationale, qui est notre programme tourné vers les bénévoles que nous avons baptisé Bénévolab, dont l'objectif est de mettre en lien un chercheur avec un volontaire afin d'identifier une problématique de terrain et de construire ainsi un programme de recherche pour essayer d'y répondre. Ces réflexions sont aussi menées grâce, et vous l'avez cité tout à l'heure, à notre plateforme d'intervention régionale basée à Saint-Denis de la Réunion, dans l'océan Indien, et qui a notamment été fortement mobilisée, notamment lors du cyclone Chido à Mayotte, mais également, vous le savez, au Mozambique et dans d'autres pays d'Afrique. Mais aussi la présence au sein du campus et du siège national de la Croix-Rouge française du Centre mondial de référence des premiers secours est un atout qui nous fait évoluer et qui nous fait, avec les autres sociétés nationales mobilisées, changer nos pratiques. Ce que je cherche aussi à dire ici, c'est que la recherche peut s'appuyer sur de nombreux acteurs au sein d'une même organisation ou d'une même société nationale. Mais finalement, la recherche à la Croix-Rouge française est aussi stratégique vis-à-vis de notre environnement, vis-à-vis de l'extérieur, en nous permettant de nous implanter dans un écosystème de recherche et d'investir ainsi des cercles de réflexion, d'élargir le rayonnement de notre institution, d'être en lien avec les universités, avec le monde économique, avec le monde des sciences humaines et sociales, et les mutations que nous traversons nécessitent de mobiliser ces expertises. C'est pourquoi ce matin, dans cette session finale, j'encourage donc chacune des composantes du mouvement, en fonction de nos moyens, en fonction de nos besoins, à nous emparer de cet enjeu afin de nous questionner sans cesse et de renouveler nos pratiques. Voici en fait quelques-unes des réflexions que je souhaitais partager avec vous, encore une fois en saluant cette initiative. Par-dessus tout, cette longue nuit constitue une vraie évolution pour le mouvement, non seulement car c'est l'occasion de croiser nos regards, mais aussi car nous avons besoin finalement de ces moments de partage pour faire vivre notre mouvement et tout simplement ce sentiment d'appartenance à la grande famille Croix-Rouge et Croissant-Rouge. À toutes et à tous, je vous remercie et je laisse la parole évidemment à la suite du panel.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Da Costa. Thank you very much for these inspiring and encouraging words. Now we are going to the next speaker, which is Madame Diane Marenco, the president of the Costa Rican Red Cross. The Costa Rican Red Cross is and has always been a strong supporter of research and of evidence-based practices. They host the Inter-American Center for Volunteering Development, or ICVD, which talked to us during the event about the value of research for inspiring and mobilizing volunteerism. Despite not being able to join us for this closing ceremony because of the time difference, the President wanted to share some words to reassert the commitment of the Costa Rican Red Cross towards research and some advice to other national societies on how to strengthen their research capacities. I would like to ask the facilitators to play the video for us now. Thank you. We cannot hear the sound.
Dear colleagues of International Red Cross and Red Crescent Movement, on behalf of Costa Rican Red Cross, we want to congratulate the celebration of this event during 24 hours to commemorate, to recognize, and to keep pushing the importance on research during the International Societies of Red Cross and Red Crescent movements. For us in Costa Rican Red Cross, it's really important to recognize how important is this in saving life in 24 hours around the country. In this national society, we are more than 6,000 of volunteers moving around the country, saving life, one emergency per minute. And thanks to the support of the Reference Center of Community Resilience and Environmental, is that we can keep preparing communities and keep learning to learn in this international movement, taking decisions based on evidence, taking decisions based on information. Is really important to keep going on this process. So we have to keep strengthening alliances between academic organizations. Just to give an example, in Costa Rica, we already signed MOU with public universities and private universities to keep, first of all, opening the spaces for our Red Cross members, but then also keep opening spaces for academic to participate in our role of saving life. We want to make a call to everybody in all the countries of this huge humanitarian movement that we are, that we have to keep pushing and keep doing things related with research, related with the importance of saving life. But again, we just can't save life. We need to analyze, to recognize, to understand, and to keep learning in how to make it better in this ocean where we are navigating of new things, new technology, and new ways to do things. I am so sorry that I cannot be there with you in this moment, but our colleagues from Costa Rican Red Cross, regarding the time, the difference of times, they're going to be there with you, and they want to participate also. And just to put on the table some quick dates, important for us to tell you that we already have 140 years in these national societies, and in the reference center we have more than 300 volunteers integrated in the reference center that goes to all the communities of the country to teach them and to learn from them, because we strongly believe in this multilateral internship or interchange of knowledge in the national societies. So I just want to thank you, Virgin, and thank you, Andres, and all the colleagues of the IFRC for this time, for this space, and thank you very much for opening this time also for us to give some words. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well. Very inspiring and real life examples as well from the center. Moving on in the same spirit, it is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Aditya Bahadur, Director of the Red Cross Red Crescent Climate Center. The Climate Center has long been at the forefront of connecting science, policy, and humanitarian action in our movement, making it a key player in advancing research that is both globally informed and locally grounded. Through its partnerships with leading academic institutions, its engagement with practitioners and communities, and its pioneering work on anticipatory action, climate adaptation, and risk communication, the Climate Center exemplifies what it means to bridge knowledge and practice in the face of growing global challenges. So Aditya, from your perspective, what does the current research landscape across the movement look like, particularly when it comes to climate and risk-related knowledge? What opportunities do you see to strengthen collaboration with academic institutions and deepen research capacities, especially at the national and local levels? And also, how can we better ensure that the research we do today equips our network and the wider movement and the communities we serve for the humanitarian challenges of tomorrow, especially the climate crisis and evolving disasters? Over to you, Aditya.
Susanna, thank you, and a very good afternoon from New Delhi. To everyone who's listening, I'm really privileged and honored to be part of such an esteemed set of speakers at this fantastic closing event. So the first thing I want to begin with underlining is that research is at the heart of the Climate Center's mission. However, research for us exists alongside two other core pillars that we focus on always, which is policy and practice. We never do research for research's sake. We always do research that is aimed at delivering a policy impact or improving the lives of people on the ground. Having said that, I think we're at a very important time when it comes to research on climate and disasters. And there are two things I'd like to point out. 2024 was the first year where we conclusively breached the 1.5 degree target that had been set by the Paris Climate Agreement, beyond which we start to see cataclysmic climate change. So the last year was the first year we breached that. So now we're entering the age of what we call the climate overshoot. And therefore, we will be in uncharted waters vis-a-vis the impacts of climate change across the world. We will start seeing situations and impacts that we haven't fully predicted and cannot properly foresee. Along with that, we are at an interesting political moment where governments around the world seem to be reneging on their pre-existing responsibilities about supporting climate action. So the age of the overshoot combined with the challenges in funding present a very unique set of headwinds for research on climate and disasters. However, there are 5 future directions that I can see happening when it comes to research on this theme, taking into account these 2 key challenges that I talked about a second ago. The first is we need to ensure that the research that all of us are doing across the different themes that we're working on is impact focused. I think patience with abstract framework level research initiatives will be quite limited in the time to come, and we will need to constantly ensure that the research that we are doing delivers improvements in the lives of most vulnerable people. If we don't do that, we're going to continue to suffer from lack of finance and lack of buy-in from key constituencies around the world. At the Climate Center, delivering impact through the research that we do is at the heart of our mission, and we try and ensure that almost every piece of work that we do, from the smallest initiative to the biggest multi-year, multi-country project, we have impact front and center. And I am very clear that we are committing ourselves repeatedly and continually to ensuring that national societies are front and center of everything that we do in terms of research for the Climate Center, and we treat them as our primary clients. Point number 2 is, in this resource-constrained environment, it is vitally important for us to be as efficient as possible. And Chris actually stole my talking point here, because I was going to underline the critical importance of using AI for research on climate and disasters. We're seeing around the world that AI is offering new possibilities in understanding who is vulnerable to the impacts of climate change and what we can do to reduce this vulnerability. And we as a network have to be ready to embrace these powerful new tools that are being extended to us by these new technologies. At the same time, we need to recognize that AI is not a silver bullet, and our engagement with this powerful new tool needs to be reflective, needs to be critical, and needs to be sensible, in line with the ethos of the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement. point number 3. Over the coming years, we're going to see a rebalancing of the geographic focus on where research on climate and disasters takes place and the areas where this research is focused. The Climate Center has traditionally focused on the global south, attempting to understand how vulnerable communities living in developing countries are interacting with climate risks. However, given the scale and spread of climate change and its impacts, we are rebalancing this focus to also focus on the global north, which is starting to see highly unanticipated extreme events that are delivering havoc on the ground. As an aside, my mentor Salimul Haq, who's a famous Bangladeshi climate scientist who passed away recently, always used to say that Bangladesh has a lot to teach Western Europe about flood management. So south to north research exchanges are critically important also, and I think we're going to see more and more of that in the coming days. My penultimate point is on themes that are going to be salient in the coming months. Under this broad umbrella of climate and disasters, there are 3 themes I would like to underline that are continuing to be extremely salient. The first is finance. The conversation on climate adaptation cannot be divorced from a conversation on climate finance. And finding new and innovative ways of filling the adaptation financing gap that is exorbitant at the moment is critically important. Do remember that only 5% of global climate finance is invested in climate adaptation. And we rapidly need to increase that figure through research in new financing modalities. The second theme I want to emphasize is the urban context. A few years ago, for the first time in the history of the world, more people started living in cities than anywhere else in the world. Most cities are located along the coast or along rivers, and therefore are highly exposed to climate risks. And undertaking innovative research on how to make cities more resilient to the climate change is absolutely essential to battling the climate crisis. This war against climate change will be won or lost in the world's cities. And the third is displacement. We're going to see more and more people displaced as a result of climate-induced shocks and stresses, and we need to really understand what are the ways in which we can reduce the impact of climate change on migrants and ensure that climate change contributes to less distressed migration. Finally, too much of our research in the past has taken place in thematic compartments, in silos that are disconnected from one another. It has become patently obvious over the last few years that for us to find innovative solutions that work, we have to look at the system as a whole. And therefore, the research that is going to come on this theme needs to really embody the spirit of systems thinking. Without it, we will deliver incomplete piecemeal solutions that are not fit for purpose. I'm going to close my remarks there, Susanna, and hand it back to you with a huge thank you to RC3 for organizing this incredible long night of research and really for being the conscience keeper of the movement and ensuring that we don't forget that undertaking research is essential for us to deliver on the promises that we've committed to delivering on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Aditya, and here on what you said. Our next speaker brings a vital perspective from the heart of operational research within the ICRC. We're very pleased to welcome Dr. Fiona Terry, the head of the Center for Operational Research and Experience, also known as CORE at the ICRC. CORE was created to help the ICRC learn from its own experience to capture insights from operations, generate evidence, and translate that knowledge into more effective humanitarian action. It plays a key role in strengthening how the ICRC and the movement more broadly learns, adapts, and evolves in complex and often high-risk environments. Fiona, we're so glad to have you with us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Susanna. And I realize there's another speaker to go after me, and we have very limited time, so I'm going to keep my comments very short, but I would like to reiterate what so many of my esteemed other panelists have mentioned. And of course, I'm hugely committed to the research and want to also congratulate the long night of research, and particularly Virginie Toi's driving force that has been a constant behind the RC3 all along. And I really think without her personally, we would never have been able to get this far. So just a few words on operational research in the ICRC, which has really, since we created the core 8 years ago, it has made a real difference in the ICRC to the quality of research, to the ethical basis of research methodologies and how it's undertaken in the field, and through collaborations both within the movement and with academic institutions. So a lot of our research has really been around understanding how to influence behavior, particularly of armed actors in conflict, whether state armed forces or non-state armed groups. And we've lent into behavioral science to understand that, as well as a lot of different methodologies. We use very much mixed methodologies. We've also been assessing the role of aid in the political economy of war. And we've tried to understand questions like, what are the impediments to women receiving health services in conflict parts of Somalia? We've also, as a few of you have flagged, have been using AI more and more, and in particular had a very good collaboration with ETHZ and EPFL, two technical universities in Switzerland, in using AI to track patterns of violence to tell us what that could say. We also have, with the University of Aga Khan and with the University of Geneva, created, if you're not aware of it, a MOOC on operational research. So I really urge all of you, if you would like to brush up more on research methodologies and the ethics of research, to go and seek this out. And we were a driver behind the guidelines put together for the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement in the use of volunteers in data collection and analysis. So I'd just like to quickly finish by just saying that we have to recognize the movement's incredible potential. I mean, it's really a fantastic. We go all the way from academic research through to policy research and then to practices in the field. We have the luxury of being able to experiment with different kinds of practices to see what is most effective, what is most cost effective, as my colleagues have already mentioned. I think this forum is a fantastic idea, and congratulations for the second successful time you're running it. A great way to share methods and findings and synergies. And so I'll leave it there because I really want to hear what Damien has to say.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Colleagues, our final speaker brings us an essential perspective from the heart of one of the most dynamic and rapidly evolving research spaces within our movement, and that is our Mr. Damien Otieno, representing the Africa Migration Research Hub of the Red Cross Red Crescent Global Migration Lab, launched in 2024 and hosted by the Kenya Red Cross with support from the Danish Red Cross. They stand at the forefront of a major push to localize and deepen research capacity across regions. Damien, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Susanna. Thank you so much, everyone, and really hearty congratulations to the team that has really put quite a lot of effort into making sure that it's long night of research has been successful. Well, this week has really been inspiring in so many ways, and we've really seen, and it has really been demonstrated in some of the sessions. Actually, not some, but actually all of them. And it's really also reflected a growing recognition across the movement, and I think I've also had conversations with some colleagues where they keep saying, research is no longer a luxury, it's more of a strategic driver of humanitarian impact. So just very briefly, I'd like to share some reflections from our journey as the Africa Migration Research Hub of the Global Migration Lab. We launched in March 2024, last year, and we're being hosted by a national society that is the Kenya Red Cross, and through support from the Danish Red Cross. And we began with a very simple idea, like starting small and starting local, and that's how we've really demonstrated working together and the dynamism that brings with working very closely with the national society. We really do not need perfect conditions to begin or even start doing research, whether it's from mapping what you already know, collecting basic data, on partnering with nearby, academic institutions or universities. We really appreciate, small steps, and we normally like to say, and we appreciate the fact that really small steps can really bring a very big difference, and we've seen it firsthand at the hub, having partnered with several, universities in the region, and now also partnered with other institutions globally. What really matters the most is embedding research into practice, and normally we never and should not stop to say this, where structures can really come later, and what really counts is the intention and the action. And then also there's local leadership, which is very essential, where research has to, and we've seen it in action, where research that is driven by people who know the context is more relevant, and even more trusted and more likely to make an impact in any setup there is. And that's why regional hubs like us really exist. We really look at different ways on how to ensure research connects to local realities, but also needs. Then also there's something we like to mention, and I think we all share insights on, is collaboration is very critical, where we're really proud to have built partnerships with academic institutions across Africa to really co-create research that is, end of day, very credible, grounded, but also policy relevant. And also, we've seen that academic collaboration, it does not just bring the kind of rigor that exists, but also really helps us to be heard in the right spaces across the region, but also globally. Then really, one principle we carry everywhere is migrants must not only be research participants. I like the fact that Aditya also mentioned that they have to be partners. They are the core. So they are knowledge holders. We creating research with them really makes more ethical, more relevant, and also more impactful. And we've also just seen this practically with some of the hubs that they exist, including ourselves. So this should be our guiding principles for all research across the movement. And thankfully, I've had some very nice and amazing comments from the panel. And also, really going forward, we really need to invest in national and local research capacity to really drive and look at different ways to equip national societies with the systems, resources that lead their research agendas. And we must always try to work to bridge research and practice, and look at different ways on how to make sure that findings don't just sit in reports. Normally, we hear that a lot. We should really shape programs and also drive decisions. So that idea of that making data-driven decisions, and that's how we can close the loop between knowledge and action. End of day. And then finally, I just really would like to encourage all of us to be part of strengthening our global research ecosystem, from volunteers to reference centers. There is a place for everyone in this growing community of practice. And after this event, everyone here can take really one step, which is start a research conversation, join a project, share what you've learned, and end of the day look at different ways on how we can all just hold hands and work together in ensuring that we all are working towards one common goal. Together we can make humanitarian action more evidence-based, inclusive, and also really, really future ready. So thank you so much, and wishing every one of us all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damien. Wow, what a journey. Over the last and past 24 hours, we've witnessed something truly special, an incredible mosaic of ideas, practices, and lived realities that show just how vibrant and committed our global research community has become. We've seen that research is not a luxury, or an add-on. It is a strategic priority, a tool for justice, a bridge between experience and action. What stood out the most is the collective energy you all brought to this event, the commitment to listen deeply, learn openly, and act intentionally. And of course, we all made a huge thank to all of you that made this event possible. But I also just want to use this last minute to thank you, Louise Baumann, who have been with us and preparing and helping and rearing the whole event. So I don't know if you are able to turn the camera on, but I just want to thank you personally, but also on behalf of the group for everything you have done. Thank you. And with that, we'll see you again for the next edition of our next big long night of research. Until then, let's carry forward the spirit of this long night, from ideas to action, from insight to impact. Thank you all, and very, very good afternoon, morning, and day, and goodbye. Thank you.